There is so much new stuff coming into the game, guys. We've got Champion Rebalance. We've got a crazy Clan Boss 10X event this weekend. And on top of that, we've got another Fragment Fusion coming up in a little while. So stick around here. We'll talk about it. Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and I got a bunch of info drop today. We got a whole lot of things happening. Like I said at the top, we've got a Fragment Fusion coming up, Bevold of the Thorn, and we'll break him down with the information we got about that. We've got a 10X Fusion this weekend, or 10X event, Pull Shard, whatever. Look, I'm not a fan of 10X events. I'm never going to recommend somebody pulls from them, but if you're struggling with Clan Boss, this is definitely your event right here, because these are all Clan Boss champions and good ones. So definitely something to pay attention to. And then very last, we've got Champion Rebalance. And this is usually the most exciting part for me, because all of a sudden, maybe we're going to be able to see some champions that were trash before that are going to be good now. So give me a second. Let's go ahead and break all these things down. Why don't we go ahead and start with these 10X champions that we got. So we've got every unkillable champion that you want for Clan Boss outside of Maneater. We've got Sir Nicholas, who is obviously one of the hardest hitting unkillable champions that we have in this game. We've got Roshkard the Tower, who's probably one of the easiest to tune, having a unkillable ability last 2 turns and on a 4-turn cooldown. A lot of good tunes revolve around his kit. We've also got Warcaster, who is a 1-turn block debuff or block damage on a 4-turn cooldown. Now, him by himself doesn't make an unkillable team, but you can get 2 of them and make an unkillable team. You can do a whole lot of different builds, even 2-1 ratios, just really using Warcaster and someone like a Skull Crusher to take the stun. On top of that, we've got Demitha, who I think is probably the unkillable queen right now. Maybe not as good as Maneater generally, but boy, she is amazing and is the champion you need to build the best Clan Boss team out there right now, the Myth Fu or the Myth Air team, whichever one you can do. Really, really good. On top of that, we've also got a couple of really good Clan Boss champions that make unkillable teams specifically extremely good. We're talking about Martyr, one of only 3 counterattack champions in this game. AoE counterattack. She has decreased defense on her A1, decreased attack on her A3. Really strong champion. We've also got Under Priest Brogni, who, I mean, man, this guy is so OP. Like, if you miss this fusion, I mean, I'm sure you're kicking yourself all the time, because 2-turn block debuff, on top of that, does actual damage with his passive ability. And if you build him with good attack, can do good raw damage himself. Not to mention the fact that he increases shields, the only champion I know that can do that, and make some really interesting comps as a result. And on top of that, we also have probably the strongest unkillable champion in the entire game. And it's not a legendary. It's Geomancer. Of all champions, this guy is bonkers with his passive ability that they nerfed and then buffed, and so it's unbelievably good. This guy is almost always part of some of the strongest Clan Boss teams. When you're talking about budget unkillable or easy double Maneater teams, I mean, this guy is essential, not just for damage. Like, he's just insanely good. Not to mention, he's one of the best champions for Hydra, as well as, dungeon bosses all throughout this game. He's very, very good. And then the last champion that's being added is Venomage. Now, Venomage to me isn't really somebody that I love. I mean, he activates poison. That's his big thing, right? He'll activate poisons that are on the Clan Boss. So if you don't have him paired with the Vizier, he's not really bringing a lot else to the table, because those poisons were going to tick away anyway. So he can be really good if you have the right team around him, but he's not really an OP champion. Probably the worst in this bunch. But I mean, we're talking out of all those 10X champions, he's the only one I say isn't really worth going for. That's pretty unusual. And frankly, I could use a second Geomancer. I could use 3 more Geomancers. He's that good of a champion. Same thing with Under Priest Brogni. Same thing with basically all of these champions. So I'm not encouraging you to pull for 10Xs. I never do that because I don't think it's worth it generally. But if you are a type of person that has extra shards, that likes pulling all the time, this is definitely a 10X I'd be considering, especially if you need help in Clan Boss. Now let's break down this new fusion champion, this fragment fusion champion, fragment event. I don't know what we call it these days, but it's a champion. He's new to the game. Now I'm not always on top of these. Like, I'm not always perfect with my predictions of these champions. As anybody that watched me talk about Guys to Gleeful can attest to, I was really hoping he was going to be good. Just very, very disappointed with them. But what we see here with Bivald the Thorn, what I see so far, I think is going to be pretty solid. I don't think he's going to be great for endgame players. If you've been playing the game for a while, he's probably not going to do anything for your account. Might be useful in Hydra, but outside of that, I don't really see a lot of appeal to him. Where I do see him being very good, though, is going to be for newer mid-game players, people that are struggling with Doom Tower, people that are struggling, especially Doom Tower, frankly, or just progression in general. I think he's going to be an amazingly good control and carry champion for your teams. So let's break down his skills real quick. Obviously, he's a Sacred Order champion. I do like his look with the thorns and everything up. Very cool. We don't need another Sacred Order champion, but all the same, he should be kind of interesting. Spirit Affinity HP champion. So on his A1, he's got a chance to place Provoke for 1 turn. Very solid for an A1 skills. 30% here. We'll see once what it is once booked. Maybe probably up to 40%. Maybe it stays at 30. And he'll heal the ally with the lowest HP by 15% of the damage inflicted. And one of the cool things about this champion is, doesn't matter if he weak hits or not, all the debuffs can still be placed. So Poison Cloud with Hydra, not going to be an issue. Obviously Provoke, though, not going to be a big thing. And he is a very heavy on the Provoke part with his kit. Now his A2 here, it's 4-turn cooldown. I'm sure when booked, that's probably going to go down to 3 turns. And all these are probably going to bump up to 100%. But attacks everybody 2 times. First hit with a 75% chance to Provoke for 1 turn. And the second hit, a 75% chance to place a Leech debuff for 2 turns. Also places a strengthen buff on the champion for 2 turns, and the Leech and Provoke will go through even if he weak hits. Again, I think really good control champion, especially for Doom Tower, but probably in any area of the game where you need AoE control. And then, of course, on Hydra, that Leech could be very valuable for you. And then, of course, he has the Briar Nexus. Attacks all enemies. Damage increases by 5% for each debuff on each enemy. Also heals all allies by 20% of the damage inflicted, and places a shield buff on them for 2 turns equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. So that definitely you're going to want to build him to hit hard. I think that's definitely going to be a big part of his kit, but it is nice having a heal and a shield on that skill. My guess is, again, that books down to a 4-turn cooldown, maybe a 3-turn, but probably 4. And then his passive decreases the damage taken by all allies from enemies under Provoke debuff for 15 turns, by 15%, excuse me. So you can see all this stuff really focuses around his Provoke ability. The fact that he can hit even with weak hits, he'll land all these debuffs, is really good. I do see some outside usage in Hydra, but I think primarily this is going to be a Doom Tower champion, specifically, just moving through the Doom Tower, the dungeon waves themselves. I don't really see anywhere else where he's going to be extremely good. Although, depending on how hard he hits, he could be extremely good for Arena as well. Having an AoE Provoke that hits on weak hits could be really nice, and provides a bit of a counter to the to some of the metas that are out there, like namely the the reaction gear that people have in Arena. So there's definitely some potential for him to be very good in things like Arena, especially with like a go second team, since he is an HP based champion. That could be a really nice option there. Now we get to what I think is the most exciting part about this, the champion rework. And these are some of the worst champions in this game that are getting reworked. So I'm really excited about this. Now I haven't actually looked at it, so we're going to look at it together. I'm going to show you the skills that these champions already have, and I'll tell you exactly what's being reworked here. So we've got, we've got Necro Hunter. Now, Necro Hunter on his A1 it's a 2-hit with a decreased defense debuff. It's a pretty solid skill. And then the A2 here, it was attacks one enemy with 50% chance of attacking all enemies with an extra hit. This changes to attacks one enemy, attacks all enemies 1 time if this attack is critical. So if it's critical, he's guaranteed to get that second hit. That's kind of nice. So it basically becomes a 2-hit ability. And then his Tombstalker skill here, the cooldown decreases from 5 turns to 4 turns. So it's only a 3-turn cooldown when booked. That's really nice. So those are 2 pretty solid skills, right? So the extra hit, it becomes guaranteed, there's no 50% chance, and the cooldown drops down. It's not a game-changing ability by any means, but definitely helps this champion a lot. Also, the aura, he gets an aura now, which is like increase ally crit rate in all battles by 19%. That's a really nice aura to have. And then we have Kalia. Kalia is definitely one of the most disappointing champions, I think, partially because, if I'm not mistaken, no, she didn't take that many books, but she's just not a great champion. But she's getting some changes, right? So Superheated Chanter attacks when enemy, chance of HP burn debuff, and heals if a tour's on the team. This ability is changing slightly. The damage is just increased on this, so she'll be doing more damage. That's always good. Her A2 ability, Curse of Nullity, I don't know what that is, Curse of Nullity, nullify everything, right? It's going to be a damage increase to that as well. So she's definitely getting some damage buffs. That's good for an attack champion. We need that. Attacks all enemies, and this is turning from a 50% chance to a 75% chance of placing 100% heal reduction for 2 turns. So it's going to be a full, when we book this fully, that will become a 100% chance to land that debuff. That's good because it's kind of pointless to not have it land every single time, especially for something as, usually not useful in heal reduction. And then the A3 skill, Flame Tempest, this attacks 3 times at random, and each hit has a 6% chance of placing HP burn debuff for 2 turns. Now it's each hit places an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. So it's going to place it every single time. That actually makes that skill a lot more valuable. Placing HP burn 3 times is definitely more helpful. I'm curious to see, my guess is it still probably won't land on weak hits, but it would be interesting to see if that does work on Hydra. I doubt it would. Oh, Frostbringer. I loved this champion when I first got her, and she's just not good. It was so disappointing, but she's getting a buff. This is actually probably the best thing coming out of this. Let's see. So, Cone of Cold, is that her 8-1? Yep. So it's a 15% chance of placing heal reduction. This is getting bumped up to a 30% chance of placing heal reduction. So 50% when fully booked. That's helpful. One of the places she is useful for is Fire Knight, so that's actually a good buff for her. Snow Flurry. This is attacks 3 times at random. Each hit has a 60% places a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns at the target as a heal reduction debuff. This is turning into a 75% chance of placing it, but the books are changing. I don't know why they're doing this. This is weird. Basically, if you book her, it's still a 100% chance to land decreased defense. But the first 2 are going to increase damage by 10% each. So the damage change there's no damage change. And then the next 2 will increase the debuff chance, and then you still have the cooldown. So I don't know why they're changing it that way. That seems kind of like a nerf more than anything else, which is a little bit disappointing. But this is what they're doing. So this had a qualifier that you had to have a heal reduction debuff first. That qualifier is gone. So that's actually that's really big, because before, you weren't landing the heal reduction all the time, and you had to have that to land the decreased defense. Now she's just going to land the decreased defense. That's actually a huge buff for this champion. Really nice. Actually, I'm really, really happy about that. That's going to be really good. And they did it, guys. They finally did it. The last champion, Woad Painted, is getting buffed. Oh, thank heavens. Finally. So let's see what they've done to fix this absolutely abysmal champion. So first off, speed is getting increased from 92 to 97. That's a big bump and makes a big difference in builds. It might not seem like a lot, but that's a huge bump for her, so that's good. Also, cross up. Let's see. A cross up. So this skill will be based on HP. No longer do you need attack and HP. That's huge too. I hate having to build champions with 2 skills to do damage. That's going to be a massive, massive buff for her. Let's see what else she has. Undying Fury right here, right? So this removes all debuffs from this champion and fully heals the champion, places reflect damage on her. This is going to remove all debuffs from this champion and 1 random debuff from all allies. That's nice. Then heals this champion by 100% of their max HP. Okay. And heals all allies equal to 50% of the surplus heal. That just got way better. Afterwards, places a 30% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns, and then grants his champion an extra turn. What is going on? That's crazy good. Okay, great. So she heals herself. She removes all her debuffs and 1 from all allies. She heals herself and then heals everybody else with the excess and reflect damage on everybody and gets an extra turn. That's a massive, massive change. And then her last skill, Overpower, they're reducing the cooldown. So this is going from 5-turn cooldown to a 4-turn cooldown, which means it'll be a 3-turn cooldown when booked, When you combine that with the fact that this is, when booked, is a 4-turn cooldown and then gives you an extra turn, oh, that's pretty massive, guys. That's pretty massive. So, yeah, everything's basically going to be on a 3-turn. I think everything's going to be basically on a 3-turn cooldown with her when you factor in the extra turn ability. That's pretty awesome right there. That's pretty awesome, I'd have to say. It does look like they removed damage inflicted proportional to this champion's max HP, so I don't know if that's still in there or not. It looks like they removed that, so you know, it's still not perfect. Still not perfect, but man, this A2 skill I think is going to be massive. All of a sudden she becomes really good for things like Fire Knight. Yeah, her damage might even be better. We might actually use Wood Painted. Crazy stuff. Wow. And here I thought we were done, but they just dropped another info dump on us. Apparently we were getting a new champion guaranteed shard event this weekend as well. So guys, if you have 120 ancient shards and you're feeling like it this weekend from Friday to Monday, you can pull Raf Matab, a new legendary barbarian that was added to the game, unbeknownst to anybody. So that's kind of cool. I mean, this champion looks amazing. I'm loving the shield, the weapon, the helmet, the what, I don't know what you call those, moose ears basically on her. I think she looks really cool. Is she worth pulling those shards for? I don't know. Haven't had a chance to test her or play with her. I will say she's kind of an interesting champion. I don't think game changing, so I don't know that I would rush out to go buy shards for it, but is definitely an interesting champion, right? A1 skill here, chance to increase the cooldowns of one of the target's skills by 2 turns. It's random, and the chance to increase 100% the target has less than 50% HP. Okay, HP-based champion, so that's always nice. A2 attacks all enemies with a 75% chance of placing provoke debuff for 1 turn. Also places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn. So very similar in some ways to Kyoku in that, except instead of ally protection, placing provoke. Kind of okay, not a game-changing ability, I wouldn't say, but the block damage is a nice addition to that. And then the A3, 50% increased resistance buff and a 30% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Books down to a 4-turn cooldown. That's a pretty solid skill right there. So definitely not a bad thing, something I would definitely be thinking about as a pretty nice little addition to your team. And then the passive ability, resistance increased by 50 whenever their active skills are not on cooldown. Basically, this is going to be for Arena. This seems like a very Arena champion to me. So before they ever take a turn and their skills aren't on cooldown, they get an extra 50 resistance to start off with. That could be really nice. So an HP resistance type champion. Definitely some things in there that I'd like. It's interesting, though, they have a provoke, which is a skill that requires accuracy, but then they also have all these buffs that seem to be the more important part that require resistance, or at least, help to build up resistance. So it's going to be interesting trying to build this champion. I'm not sure how applicable they'll be in most parts of the game, specifically in Arena. My guess is probably not used a ton, but also probably a pretty solid champion for a Go Second style team. So interesting champion. Got some possibilities out there, some new things going down. It's been a crazy last 6 hours or so since I've been getting these messages. So anyway, I've probably recorded this video 10 times, so let's just end it here, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.